with vertical, horizontal, as I've had in the past with this connection. But nonetheless, Happy New Year to everybody, and thanks for joining me. A little bit under the weather yesterday, so moved it over to today. And the subject that I wanted to discuss today was physical health. We spoke about the mind, the body, and spirit in combination, and all the different aspects of the things that we can incorporate in a trifold that will assist us in gaining a greater access towards our unity and our sense of wholeness with our body, our mind, and our connection to spirit, and whatever that means to anybody, or whatever it means to you. But today, I wanted to discuss physical health and some of the things that we can incorporate in our lives that will help us to develop a greater sense of inner strength that starts with our own physical body. And people start New Year's resolutions, and sometimes they stay with them or stick with them, and other times they wind up veering off of that path because it becomes too much of an extreme change in what they were doing before to what they really want to do thereafter. And so physical health includes our nutrition, right? Our exercise, and maybe our sleep as well. But so we can touch upon some of those concepts that we can incorporate within our lives. I mean, many of us hear all the information that's out in social media of the things we can do in terms of what we can eat, what we shouldn't eat, how many hours of sleep we should have, and the amount of exercise that we want to incorporate. So I just wanted to pass along to you some of the information that I've gained that you might have heard already, but if you haven't, maybe this will be of assistance to you. So in terms of nutrition, many people are into fasting now, intermittent fasting. They wait about 16 hours on average from the last meal they had the night before to the next day. And usually what that does is that increases the amount of growth hormone that you have. It actually helps muscle development and helps actually reduce inflammation and increase longevity. That's one of the things we can incorporate. Next thing is to include omega-3 fatty acids in our diet. Many of the studies point to the fact that you can increase longevity, I think 3 to 5 years, for the fact that taking, omega-3s in the form of fish pills, EPA, DHA, which is the combination of the two components of fish oil. And really what it does is it increases cognitive function, helps your brain function better. Also helps with inflammation, and inflammation, as we know, is a biomarker for cardiovascular disease, arteriosclerosis, brain disorders, and so on. So that's another concept that we can add to our diet, which is omega-3 fish oil pills. It's very difficult to get the amount that they require in our diet through different types of foods. So that's one of the suggestions. Another thing that we can incorporate are wild blueberries. Wild blueberries are powerful antioxidants. The colors that that are excreted from the foods when we eat them, specifically wild blueberries, have the ability to remove toxins from the liver and from the brain. And our liver, since it is the biggest organ in the body next to the skin, we want to try to keep our liver as healthy as possible so that it removes the toxins and we don't have any type of backup in our system. So we got wild blueberries, we have omega-3 fatty acids, and also I wanted to invite the fact that many people who are vegetarians, vegans, avoid eating meat. But if we eat grass-fed beef, which has high amounts of glutamine, we actually help our stomach, we actually help our digestion, and it reduces inflammation in the body, unlike what we've heard. So grass-fed meat has high amounts of antioxidants from the grass that the cattle will eat if you're into eating beef, but we also need it because of iron. Very rarely do we receive glutamine, which I just mentioned, as well as iron, and that's a very good source of it if you're into eating grass-fed red meat. So those are some of the things I just wanted to touch upon today. And also in terms of sleep, they say to get about 7 to 8 hours of sleep. Some of the things that people do before they go to sleep is taking a hot bath, a sauna, which increases your ability to fall into a deeper sleep pattern. Taking a bath, by the way, with your shoulders submerged underwater is equivalent if the water temperature is about 104 degrees Fahrenheit. And that would be if you'd sit 20 minutes in a bath with your body submerged. It has the same effect as a sauna does. However, if you can't get to a sauna, you have the opportunity to do that. But I think it has to be about 20 minutes or more, and maybe 3 times a week, if that's what I read in the studies. Okay, so sleep. Exercise. We want to incorporate cardiovascular exercise, which means we want to get at least 20 minutes of physical activity in terms of increasing our heart rate, either riding a bike, walking, whatever it requires to increase your heart rate from the resting heart rate that it's at. So that we have cardiovascular exercise, again, bicycling, walking, jogging, anything where you're moving all your limbs and you're doing it for about 20 minutes or more without stopping. I'm talking at a very basic level of exercise if you haven't exercised. Obviously, if you exercise at a higher intensity, a moderate or above that, then you know a little bit more about what I'm talking about. But for the people who are just starting with a new baseline of understanding the movement from maybe not exercising to exercising, or improving or increasing their exercise, maybe that's something to incorporate. Also, we need weight training. The more lean muscle mass we have, which is muscle, actually increases also our longevity. That determines our length, our ability to survive, right? When we're under stress, we have more muscle mass. And the more muscle mass we have throughout our lives, the better our physical structures in order to sustain our form, in order for our bones to remain healthy. And when we lift weights, we increase the amount of calcium that goes in the bones that work in correlation with supporting our whole entire body. So those are some of the things I just wanted to touch upon on a small level. I mean, I can get into it in a deeper level in terms of a little bit more thorough, but we'll just keep it there in terms of sleep, nutrition, and exercise. And so what I wanted to deal with today is I wanted you to focus in on what aspect of those 3 components do you need to focus in on more. And if you do exercise, you can maybe ask your spirit animal if it has to do more with increasing your level of weight training, increasing your level of cardiovascular exercise, which is what I mentioned before, walking, jogging. In other words, if you're walking, should you be jogging? And if you're jogging, should be increasing your intensity, as well as weight training, lifting weights? Or do you need more sleep? I mean, you have a basic idea of where you're lacking or where you're strong, where your strengths lie. But maybe if you listen to the information that comes through the spirit animal, you can get that information. All right, so just take a second to think a little bit about that. I know you're writing in the chat. I see people writing. It's obviously difficult for me to get back to you because I'll be drumming, but I certainly will answer your comments after I'm finished. I just want to thank you all for joining me here. And by the way, I put up a Patreon page, which I've had. I've reduced some of the tiers, so maybe it's a little bit more affordable and more reasonable. Let me know if you're interested. In some of those sessions that I offer also Akashic Record readings. And so if you join one of the tiers with Akashic Record readings, you have the opportunity to ask me a question once, for about a 15-minute session, to ask 1 or 2 questions to get insight into your life. All right, let's push that aside and let's get back to the drumming. So what we'll do is we're going to take a few deep breaths in now. Make sure you're not operating any heavy machinery or driving a car. Take a deep breath in and exhale. Take a deep breath in and exhale. Take a deep breath in and exhale. And let's go on our journey to ask our spirit animal about what aspect of our life do we need more assistance with. Walking into a beautiful forest. It's a beautiful sunny day like all Wednesdays and Thursdays are here. The sun shines when I'm drumming. And as we walk along this path, we leave last year behind. Some of the questions we asked. Some of the themes that we needed resolved. And while there's always a bridge to go back, our goal is to move forward. And as we walk along this path, we hear the birds in the trees. And although the trees are barren, the sun shines through and warms the air. As we walk up our path, we cross a little bridge that goes over a stream. And we stop and look to the left. And we look to the right. And we take in the sound of the water flowing and its constant motion, never having the opportunity to stop. And even when the water freezes underneath, the water still trickles through. And so is our life. At moments we become frozen, but the undercurrents of who we are still remain flowing. We walk over this path of this bridge, and the terrain in front of us gets a little steeper going upward. And as we walk, we think about our physical body and the motion that we're in and the movements and the importance for our blood to flow. Without our conscious effort, our body would remain still and lack mobility. And we walk up this hill. Climbing upward, knowing at some point it will become level. And as we reach that flat land, flat ground, we walk forward. The pine needles on the floor, pine cones left and right. Various birds whistling and chirping in the background. And as we walk ahead, we see a large boulder in front of us. And we sit down on top of that boulder. We close our eyes and we ask the question about our physical health, what we need to focus in on more, what we need to eat or incorporate or take out of our diet, or what type of exercise we can improve. What sleep patterns do we need to change? And we open our eyes and see a spirit animal in front of us. What animal do you see? And you close your eyes and telepathically communicate with the spirit animal who passes information on to you. information. We accept all the information from the spirit realm as long as we remain open. Thank the spirit animal for the information that we received. And we open our eyes, and the spirit animal is gone. We take in our environment as we take in a deep breath. With a greater sense of clarity. Take one more breath in. And we begin our journey back off the trail. We walk down the steep embankment that we climbed up. To the sun as the sun shines in our face. And we get nearer to the footbridge. We stop there. We hear the water flowing with a greater intensity. Recognize that change is possible, and that information we receive has the potential to motivate us and shift our thinking. And we continue forward. And we stop in front of an oak tree on the right side. We put our hands on it. And exchange energy. The tree absorbs the positive energies from your body. And you thank the tree as you release your hands and move forward. And you take a deep breath in and exhale. And you take a deep breath in and exhale. And one more deep breath in and exhale. You move your fingers and move your toes. And when you're ready, open your eyes and come back into the room. And I want to thank you for joining me today, giving me the opportunity to perform this drumming session, this journey, for you to connect to your spirit animal, to get a clear understanding of confirming some of the things that your conscious mind is aware of, but that your unconscious mind will pass on to you to give you a greater sense of support and confidence, knowing where you should be going, in which direction. So I just wanted to remind us again that our physical health is made up of many of the components that we incorporate in our lives. That means how we sleep, how we eat, and how we exercise, as well as a few other components. But I just touched upon some of them today, and hopefully you're able to incorporate some of these, or you already do incorporate them in your life. If you have any questions, you can ask me below. And again, I want to thank you for joining me, and have a happy and a healthy new year, and we'll see each other next week. Have a great day.